So with any refinishing project, this is going to start off with a lot of sanding and stripping, and some more sanding and some more stripping. You just see here, just follow the instructions on the product that I had. There's a lot of this, I believe it's polyurethane. I was getting off of there. Now I did get to the sanding. Here I was using a belt sander, and I was just going through just 40 grit sandpaper. The sandpaper that I was using was it was breaking a lot. I went through about six or seven of them. So not exactly sure what was going on there, but it definitely took a lot. So I just put in some headphones and just kept at it. There's a lot of divots and waves in the boards, and there's a lot to get out. But as you'll see in a little bit later, I couldn't go deep enough to smooth everything out perfectly, because there were a few divots here and there that I had to add some inlays in to make it smooth. Now here I'm just putting a 3/4 inch round over on the edge. And I also did add an extra 3/4 inch to the edge around the whole table as well. And just smoothing out the corners there, since it was a sharp corner. And this was done with 120 grit. Now to put the inlays in, I did use a Shaper Origin. And at this point here, I need to put one more line of those dominoes down that I'll find out in a couple seconds here. But for all of them, well, pretty much all of them, there was two that I used squares, but for all of them, it was where some nails were. I guess this table had nails coming from the top down, and they made some divots. So at each one of those spots, I just made a circle that was big enough to go around each one of those divots, and cut out an inlay to put in there and sanded it down. Now this one I noticed wasn't perfect, so I just went back. Easy enough with the Shaper. It's going to be the same exact spot. So you can see the inlays there. One's a square and the other one's circle, and there's just a bunch of them around there. Now with the flaming, I've got two different flames that I use. This one is a much wider, more just a larger flame. There's another one that's a lot smaller. So with the wider one, it's a nice wide brush stroke. Imagine that you're just painting it along there, and you don't want to stop at one spot. So you want to kind of continuously go. You don't want to just hang out at one area, which I might do a few times. So that's something that you definitely don't want to do. But the grain will pop up on you just out of nowhere. So you definitely got to pay attention to that. And it's just patience. Now with this project, there were a lot of areas that still weren't completely dried, even though it was an old table. There were a lot of spots that were just soaked with resin from the wood, and that took a lot more heat because it had to dry it out first before it actually started to darken those areas. And you'll see, a little bit here, going across some of those wider areas that you'll see the redder spots. They'll just flame right up because it's just burning off a bunch of that resin. And I have to go back a few different times too, because you want to get to each area kind of like an initial coat, and then you want to go back and do some touch-ups here and there. There you can see it flaming up a little bit there on me, but not to worry, it's not, table's not starting on fire or anything. But you do want to be careful. Very, 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 very careful. As you can see, I'm doing this outside. You don't want to do it inside unless you've got a very, very good exit strategy on putting something out. But all in all, it's just a light touch. You don't want to get too dark. You're just trying to just change the color. Now you definitely see those inlays popping out too, which is kind of nice. Smooth strokes. Now this is obviously sped up. I think I sped this up like 720%. So you see the table is relatively done, but I'm still, the flaming meter there still is only about halfway. So I'm going to go back and do a bunch of touch-ups. So if you want to skip to the end, you definitely can. But yeah, it's not quick. Now I'm just trying to darken everything up because the initial stain for the legs, which I didn't do anything to, didn't do anything to the legs, is a little bit darker. So I'm trying to get things just to be a little bit darker and make sure that all the light areas do change color. Now there are some light areas there. Just one you'll notice at the bottom middle. That's one of them that I needed to take the smaller flame to, because the wide flame would have just darkened everything around it, would have put too much heat in that area, and would have made everything else black, and that spot still wouldn't have turned. So I had to get something that was a little bit more precise to get that area. Now what I didn't do, and what I should have done, which probably would have saved me about, a half hour, 10 minutes maybe, was after all of this was said and done, let it set for, I should have let it set for about a half hour or so, because there's all those red areas, resin was just being sucked out, and it sat on the top. And I needed to clean that off before putting a finish coat on. And that I did not notice until I had to strip it away and then put a finish coat back on. So it wasn't too bad. I was only putting on beeswax and mineral oil. Comes off pretty easily with 10% acetone, in my experience, anyway. So next was the mineral oil and beeswax that I put on here, and it's just butcher block conditioner. It does a pretty good job at evening out the tone. So you see some blotches in there, but after this is on there, it really evens everything out. It is going to also pull up some of that excess char. I do that a few times, and after you do it a few times, you won't get any more black on the old rag that you're using. It'll just be clean. So here was where I put the acetone on some of those red spots. So I'm just cleaning everything up there, and you'll notice some more dark char come up with the acetone, but it's a pretty harsh cleaner, so that's something you definitely wouldn't want to do on a project like this if you're just trying to clean the table. But I'm doing it trying to get that resin up. There was quite a bit of it too, so it's definitely should have did this beforehand. So after all this was said and done, I put another coat of the butcher block conditioner on there, and I put another coat on after this dried. So there you can see it brighten up a little bit, and then did let it sit here and did a fast forward on letting it dry. So it was about an hour time lapse here right afterwards, so you can kind of see the change in an hour. So yep, there's that. So you can see some dry spots there. So that's about how much it dried in an hour. So after that, I also took this off, and just added some triangles there to free it up for them. And it turned out pretty nicely. So, thanks for checking this out. Hopefully it, gave you a little bit of information.